If you were forced to become the adult in situations where you should have been the child, your brain developed behavioral patterns in ways that still shape how you think, feel, and navigate the world today. And most people have no idea how deeply this early psychological shift continues to influence their adult mind. You learned to read rooms before you could read books properly. You became hyper-aware of other people's emotions and needs because your safety depended on it. You developed what psychologists call premature cognitive maturity. Your mind learned to think like an adult while your emotional development was still catching up. This created a unique psychological profile that affects how you process relationships, stress, and success as an adult. If this already sounds familiar, subscribe and like. This channel helps you understand patterns most people never stop to question. Research suggests that children who experience parentification, being forced into adult roles prematurely, develop distinct neurological patterns that persist into adulthood. Studies have found that Dr. Alice Miller's research on gifted children shows that these individuals show increased activity in brain regions associated with threat detection and emotional regulation. Behavioral science shows that when children are required to be responsible beyond their developmental stage, their brains prioritize survival-based thinking over age-appropriate cognitive development. This isn't damage, it's adaptation that comes with specific psychological costs and benefits. The first thing that happened to your mind was the development of hypervigilant emotional intelligence. You learned to read micro-expressions, voice tones, and body language with extraordinary accuracy because you needed to predict and manage other people's emotional states for survival. This emotional intelligence came at a cost. As an adult, you can walk into a room and immediately sense tension or emotional undercurrents that others miss completely. You notice when someone's smile doesn't match their energy, when there's something they're not saying, when the mood is about to shift. This emotional radar never turns off because your brain learned that missing these signals could lead to chaos or conflict. You also learned to manage emotions, de-escalating situations, mediating conflicts, keeping peace, often at the expense of your own emotional needs. Do you find yourself automatically scanning for emotional danger signals in every social situation? Your brain developed premature responsibility integration, the ability to handle complex tasks far beyond your developmental stage. You learned to manage household logistics, care for siblings, or navigate complex family dynamics while your peers were learning basic social skills. This created neural pathways that make you exceptionally capable as an adult. You handle crisis situations with unusual calm and take on leadership roles that overwhelm others. But this same adaptation makes it difficult to relax, delegate, or trust others with important tasks. Your mind learned that if something needs to be done right, you need to do it yourself. Studies show that adults who experienced early parentification often struggle with responsibility release, the ability to step back without feeling anxious. You developed sophisticated emotional suppression mechanisms that allowed you to function when your own feelings would have been inconvenient or dangerous. Your mind learned to compartmentalize your emotional experience, setting aside your needs to focus on what the situation required. This isn't emotional numbness. You feel things deeply, but you learned to feel them privately or not at all when there were pressing concerns. You became skilled at asking, "What does this situation need from me?" rather than "What do I need?" As an adult, this manifests as difficulty identifying your own emotional needs in real time, automatically saying, "I'm fine," even when you're not, or feeling like your emotions are less important than practical concerns. Here's something most people don't understand. Growing up too fast creates a paradox around trust and control. Your mind learned that you could only rely on yourself, but also that you're responsible for managing situations beyond your actual control. This creates anxious self-reliance. You don't trust others with important things, but feel overwhelmed by constant responsibility. You have difficulty asking for help, not from pride, but because your brain learned that asking often led to disappointment or having to clean up inadequate attempts later. You give excellent support to others but struggle to receive it authentically. When people try to help, you're already analyzing whether their support is genuine or comes with strings attached. Research indicates that adults with this background often have hyper-independence. Independence feels safer than interdependence, even when interdependence would be more beneficial. Your mind developed a complex relationship with success that most people never experience. Because you learned to derive worth from being useful and reliable, success feels both necessary and somehow undeserved. You achieve impressive things, but struggle to enjoy or internalize those achievements. This happens because your brain learned to associate personal success with taking something from others or abandoning your responsibility to care for people. When good things happen, you immediately scan for who might need you or how your success might create problems for others. You might downplay achievements, feel guilty about opportunities others don't have, or experience survivor guilt, the sense that you don't deserve good things when others are still struggling. Many describe feeling like they're living a double life, competent outside, but constantly worried about being found out. When you had to grow up too fast, your mind learned that vulnerability was dangerous and emotional needs were burdens. This created specific challenges around intimacy. You excel at being supportive and reliable, but struggle to be truly vulnerable yourself. Your brain learned that showing weakness or expressing needs could lead to rejection or additional responsibility. So you learned emotional self-sufficiency as a way of maintaining relationships and avoiding abandonment. This creates intimacy paradox. You crave deep connection, but struggle with the vulnerability that makes it possible. You might find yourself always giving more than receiving, not from people-pleasing, but because receiving feels foreign and dangerous to your nervous system. Many describe feeling lonely even in close relationships, not because partners don't care, but because they've never learned to let themselves be truly seen and cared for. Does this intimacy pattern sound familiar to you? None of this happened because you were weak or failed somehow. Your mind adapted brilliantly to an impossible situation, developing capabilities most people never acquire. The hypervigilance, emotional intelligence, crisis management skills, these are real strengths from real survival. But survival adaptations necessary in childhood can become limitations in adulthood when the original threat is gone, but protective mechanisms remain active. Your mind still operates as if you need to be the adult in every situation, as if others' needs matter more than your own. Understanding this pattern is the first step toward conscious choice about when these adaptations serve you and when they hold you back. You don't need to abandon your strengths, but you can learn to use them consciously rather than having them run constantly in the background. If you recognize yourself in this description, you're not broken and you're not alone. Your mind learned these patterns because they were necessary for survival, but you get to choose which ones to keep and which to modify now that you're in a different situation. The strength you developed is real, but so is your right to softness, to being cared for, and to letting someone else be the adult sometimes. You've earned the right to be both capable and cared for, both strong and supported. If this helped you understand yourself more clearly, subscribe, like, and share. It helps others make sense of their own patterns too. Understanding your psychological patterns is the first step toward having conscious choice about them.